up?
Hannah, you're here.
It's great. It's great to be here.
Welcome. Hannah Swain, a member of how long?
It's good. A year and a half.
A year and a half in the fort. So you're deeply embedded with us. We've known you forever. I remember bringing you in, like meeting you, bringing you in for a tour, showing you around. I think you had just gotten back from Hawaii, and you lived in Hawaii during COVID, and you were kind of like there. You were like a local for a while, right?
Did the local thing. I like to talk about it because it was amazing, but I don't like to talk about it because my life fell apart, and then it got wonderful because I was in Hawaii, but a lot of people are still in the life falling apart phase.
It's part of the story.
It's part of the story.
But you'd started your life in New York. And did you live here before that? Or were you were here first?
I came to college here, stayed,
Where'd you go to college?
Really small school downtown called the King's College.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like very, very small. But when you're in a city this big, it evens out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I stayed and I worked and I thought about leaving, and then I just never left. And then got to the point of being like this, okay, I'm sick of this. This is not where I want to be. And then COVID broke some things open, everything fell apart. And it was a big turning point of deciding, as everything's falling apart, you get to decide then what's going to replace it. What's going to be the next. And
it's like a rebirth.
It was yes. I was like, oh man, this is my eat, pray, love moment. And I was like, the book is very good. The movie, I was like, this was a bad example of books to cinema, but decided, what can I do now that I never would have done if things had gone to my plan? Things had been worked out the way I wanted it to. And so I wanted to go international, wouldn't work because world shut down. So like Hawaii. Never been, don't know anybody. Gonna try to make a plan, make it happen. And I went and I got super involved in CrossFit there.
Yeah, you found a community of people.
Found a community.
You lived the lifestyle.
Did the CrossFit thing, hiked, swam.
And that was the first time that you were kind of embedded in gym culture, even though you grew up in gymnastics, right? So
yes.
You've always been an athlete.
Yes, that was from growing up, was always in very active family, which I really appreciate. But then that really was formalized in being a gymnast, competing. That was like something I always valued to do, just physical activity and also the competitive nature of it. So I did most things on my own in terms of physical life post gymnastics world. So in college, all of that, I wasn't an official athlete, but I joined different sports teams at multiple times because people, like small school, you can just jump in and do these things. And it's like track athlete for 2 days, soccer athlete for 1 day. I was like, all right, I'm glad that you think I can just jump in and do this enough to. But CrossFit was huge for me, of coming in and realizing there are these people who also care about this, that it's me as an individual, like showing up and doing my thing, but also there's these people around me that it's affecting what my individual work is like.
Yeah. Did you feel a sense of familiarity to that from gymnastics, or were you like, this is kind of different, but it still tugs on the same like strings of being an athlete and like being part of something?
I think it kept me honest about my abilities in two ways. Of one, you sort of like rise to the occasion, right? When there's people around you watching and you're like, oh, they're really strong. I not only want to be that, but like, can I? Is that already in me? And then
and gymnastics has a crossover into CrossFit. There's a lot of gymnastics. I think Greg Glassman, the guy who started CrossFit, was a gymnast. Yeah. So there's a lot of gymnastics built into the framework of CrossFit.
Yes.
So you were able to apply, what you had developed your whole life, like into the sport.
Yes, which was really beneficial in coming in. You're like new, you don't want to be like, no one ever wants to come in somewhere and be like the bottom of something. Like everyone wants to grow, but they also want to come in and you're like, oh, but I'm also like pretty good at this already.
Yeah, some platform. Like this is my thing. This is how I fit.
And so I wanted to come in and be that of like, I kind of know it. Oh, let me just like try a like muscle up and
Yeah.
You just hope it happens. And I was like, oh, it's been a little while. I think there's some work to be done. But then you can also then like walk on your hands across the entire floor. And then you're like, oh, this is fine. This is just pulling from my, youth of doing this, which was great. But it also like reminded me of this other factor I had when I was young. And like one of the main things that led me to quitting gymnastics is that I started getting scared. And I started realizing that there was a ceiling to what I was capable of. I was like, oh, I'm too tall for doing this. I'm 5'4". So, gymnasts aren't this tall, or certain threads that I started unfolding. I was like, I think I'm scared of this next move. I think I'm scared of what would happen if I try and it doesn't work out. And I was seeing other people who were putting in the time, putting in the effort, the dedication. I was like, what if I try really hard and I fail?
And what's crazy about gymnastics, you can see that at the highest of highest levels. Like Simone Biles, even at the Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? Like kind of went through that. She is the best at the top of her game. Still mentally challenged from that limitation of like, can I do this? Can I actually get there? I don't know if I can handle it. What will happen if I fail? You can see it. It's particularly difficult in gymnastics.
Yes. So I got reminded of that feeling once I showed up in your like completely new area and you're doing something physical. And so you're proving yourself beyond just, I don't know, speaking about your accomplishments or other things that aren't as viscerally tested as, can you do 100 burpees over a, in between snatches?
Sure.
Like you can't cheat it. It's just there or not. I was like, what if I try and I fail?
Yeah.
I'm trying to win these friends over. I know no one on this island. I know no one on this island. I need friends. And that all of a sudden I didn't realize, I was like, oh, this really is Eat, Pray, Love. I'm like digging deep into something about like community and belonging. And you think that you're just coming for a workout, but there's a lot more.
And it was your social circle too? Like made a lot of friends?
That was the primary place when I arrived. It's where I spent Thanksgiving with these group of people on the beach.
Wow.
It's where I ended up finding somewhere to live. It's when I was in a wreck and there's someone who's the mobile mechanic who came and, helped me when I was like, I know nobody, these are my people. And, it was highly integral to the success that time ended up being.
Was it hard to leave?
There was a while I was like, okay, I don't think I can talk about this without
that's
crying, because
right.
it was just it was family.
Yeah.
Absolutely family.
What was the name of this CrossFit gym?
It is McKenna CrossFit in Maui, Hawaii.
Nice.
Shout out to Coach Paul, adventure racer. He's like one of the first people too that I was like, you are an amazing coach. You are the kind of person that you like proved to me how valuable coaching was.
Describe him more. Like what made him a great coach? Like what were those qualities? How would you describe it to somebody who maybe hasn't had a great coach?
This sounds very cliche, but he was the type of person who he looked at me when I first arrived. He's like, I got this sense that he saw something in me I couldn't fully see in myself yet. Wow. I was like, sure, I've done the athlete thing. I have like, at least I'm not starting from ground zero. So kind of can jump in and hold my own somewhat already. And he's like, you can do more. There's more to you. He's like, it's great where you are, but there's more that we can develop and work on. And it really started this transition in my mind of, for so long I've been really independent in the things I wanted to do. I was like, and I should have this self-motivation and discipline and really value the ability of that to come from within. But then I meet this coach who's like, I think I can do more with him than I could do by myself. I think I could do more in this community than I could just do by myself. And him knowing I could show up, and he's like, my expectation for you is more than even what you have for yourself.
See, that's what's so cool about that coach is still with you. Mm-hmm. Like that coach is still coaching you. Mm-hmm. And when you give somebody that gift, you believe in them more and they believe that you believe in them. And they change their identity with the coach. That coach has made an impact for them forever.
Yes.
And they are with them forever. And I think back to coaches that I've had and I hear their voice still, like coaches I had when I was 12, good coaches that I had when I was 12. There's a lot of bad ones too that I don't remember anything. Mm-hmm. But the good coaches They exactly the way that you described it. They believed in you more than you believed in you. And you wanted to rise up to their expectations, or you just trusted. Well, maybe they're right. I guess let me find out. Okay. They're encouraging me. They're putting the energy toward it. They help you there. It's really special. I haven't heard anybody articulate the role of the coach like that maybe in a while. And I kind of forgot. That's very cool.
And that's, I mean, to transition back to here of you leaving this actual paradise of life and
Sure.
like being on an island doing CrossFit and having this amazing community. Yes, extremely hard to leave. So I had a stint. I moved to Seattle for 3 months, which was, it wasn't a great time. It was the opposite of everything Hawaii had been, but it made me ready to move back to New York when the time opened up, which was a year and a half ago. And almost a week after moving back, I found out about the fort, came here, and like immediately I was like, this is exactly what I had. And it's so hard to put your finger on, but I think those same principles of all of a sudden you're known, you walk in, there's people who are caring about similar things that you're caring about, but the coaching here and the community of people who are, there's like the coach proper of like, okay, here's who's like leading this session, but then there's also the camaraderie and almost like the coaching of one another that now when you're in a space where you're known, people are telling me this and I'm telling them, I was like, oh, you're stronger than you think. Like you can do more. And I've seen this and you're invested and you care in that. I was saying this earlier. I'm like, oh yeah, you can squat anywhere. You can do these actual movements, but you have people who are looking at you saying, I know you, I know what you can do. And I want more for you even than you think that you want and can do.
Exactly. That's awesome. Do you ever find yourself in a position of like helping someone else or coaching someone else? In the gym?
In the gym?
Yeah.
Yes. There's definitely days I'm like, I'm not a morning person. I've never been. And then in the last, I guess, 2 years of CrossFit mornings, now Fort mornings, I think it's a special exception that I'll come in. I'm like, let's talk. Let's first I'm like, tell me how your weekend was. Also, like, learn that you're growing this garden. How is that going? But also I'm like, you put on 10 more pounds. Like, what are you doing? Like I think that
you're being the encourager now too, and helping people open up.
Cause I've seen,
and be part of it
without even thinking about it. I think it's there then. You're in the culture, you step in and,
it's one of the coolest things I see with people that have been here long enough to be embedded in it is they take on some of the big responsibilities that Dan and I did when we first opened the gym, which is making people feel seen and welcome and getting to know them and helping them open up and feel safe. And when people are in that state and they're in the environment, they're in fertile soil and they can grow. Like they can realize versions of themselves that are very hard to tap into in any other situation. So in a big way, you're helping people just have access to the person that they could be or they want to be, that they might not have the ability to tap into elsewhere.
Yeah, I think we always had a vision that like peer coaching would be a big part of what we do. And that's turned out, like, as more people have experience and come in more, that happens more and more. It's kind of the magic of, not to talk too much about our structure, but it's kind of why like having people of mixed capabilities in each group is like really great. And it's a thing where when new people come in, they don't understand how that's even possible. Like, I'm going to be so far behind this person. And like, no, that's what you want. Like, you want to be around other people who are more experienced, who can show you what's possible. Like, it's one thing if like a coach is there and you're like, this person does this for a living. But when you see other people and you can just open your eyes to what's possible and that person is supporting you, that's extremely powerful.
I never thought about this, but it's so much better of an educational situation than being in college. Like when you're in college, everybody's the same. They're all freshmen, sophomore. Everybody's at the same level. So you're all like at this place. And you have one master, like one teacher, maybe some GAs if you're lucky. it's very hard to like learn things broadly, comprehensively. When you're in a company and you're working in a good company where there's like a consistent mission, you see there's people that have been there a long time. There's people that have just started as well. Maybe people that have been there for less time than you, and you get to learn the mix. And I think that's why, actually working educates us much better. But even in the weight room, like we modeled the system after kind of a college football system, right? Like kind of 4 people at a time, like all under the same program, like coached individually, but like part of the same team. But everybody was the same age, like in that scenario. It works so much better when you have people at different training ages. Some people have been doing this for 20 years. Some people have just started this week, ton of people in the middle, and everybody is sort of both learning and competing, friendly, and teaching together as part of their development. And just put it all together. Man, that's like, we're crushing it.
Code is cracked right now.
Code is cracked.
And so then as a further plus to what you've done, going even back to that concept of, are you in a space where you feel freedom to fail? I didn't even realize that was such a hang up until even now as I'm articulating it and thinking about that earlier of, okay, what was the same thing that kept me from pushing through, and gymnastics that maybe keeps me from like pushing through in like a personal and professional sense of, are you in a place where if you feel like you try and fail, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's happened here. Happened for me at my CrossFit gym, because the people there, I was like, we're here and we're competing, but you don't care if I can do this or not. Like, sure, that's really cool if we can lift a lot of things and run around and, and be good at it. But then there was real life components outside of that. And I feel that same way here, that I can go for a lift or do something, push myself in most of the time it works out because people are coaching you on, and it's a success. Like I'll come back to that. That's a different anecdote. But you have the freedom to fail. Like I wasn't as strong as I was the other week. And people know you're like, oh, are you stressed? Like, yes, that's your other components of life. But to also community piece, the other week I woke up and was one of the more tired, stressed. Just if you're talking about readiness score of being able to show up, I was like, nope, not today. I rarely cancel. I was like, I think I need to cancel, but I knew that there would be people there giving me a hard time if I did. Showed up and like ended up PRing my back squat. I was like, this doesn't make sense. This is like true. I was like, and it made me realize again, I've come to this point several times, but it's so valuable to be in a place where you consistently are setting yourself up for success. Like you're just communities of success. And there's the spectrum of whether you feel great or whether you don't feel great, whether you think you're going to hit your PR or not. It's, that's something that happened organically. That was not how we designed it. We actually didn't design anything particularly when it came to like achievement or like hitting a level or like performing. What ended up happening is we were like an all or nothing gym. It was like 7 days a week or nothing. Like, so you are either all in or you're all out. And everybody that was in was there all the time. And the reality was like, when you're there all the time, you cannot achieve, like you can't perform 100% all the time. Actually, not even close. Like the reality is daily things started to get to like 70, 80%, but every day consistently. So everybody knew like, oh, that 100% day might happen and good for you. Wow, that's really cool. We're all going to like be really excited for you. But like, there's no expectation that has to be the case every day. Rather, we're going to like show up. We're going to enjoy this. We're going to work and tweak on where we're at today. We're just going to work on this practice and we enjoy it. We're going to do it because we enjoy it. And that culture became a thing, and new people would come in and be like, wait, I can just enjoy this. And you're like, yeah, you can just enjoy this. Like you can just like living like this. And they're like, wow, that's really cool. Let's try it. And they find that like
they really like it and want to keep doing it.
Exercise is suffering for so many people. You know, like we're in a bubble now where we don't even think about this anymore, but it's true. When you go, like, people have to drag themselves to the gym because they're not having fun. They don't have direction. There's probably a lot of reasons, but part of it is like, they're just trying to end their life every time they walk in there. It's like, it's too much. Like, we were talking about this the other day. I think the person that wins at the gym is the person who gets the most lifetime reps. Like, can you just keep going and keep doing this? It doesn't matter what the weight on the bar is. Eventually the weight will get heavy, because if you just keep doing it, something's going to click, or this is going to get important to you, or you're going to learn this, and like, you're going to improve. But if you can just keep coming back, and it should not be 100% all the time. Like, that's the person who's going to get the furthest. I think that's like kind of the culture that's kind of formed in the facility, which is like, people are just like, I just know I have to. It's like when you thought you had to cancel, it's like, I can't cancel. I just have to show up. And it doesn't really matter what happens. But like, walking in is just such a huge part of it. And just getting the lifetime reps in.
Those are the most valuable days. Just showing up on the day you don't want to, you don't want to be there. Just showing up is the win. You already won when you walk through the door.
Yep.
Everything else is icing. And then what is crazy is sometimes it just happens to blow your mind.
It just works out.
And it's just like, I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that I would PR my back squat on a day like today. Yeah, it's cool. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. You watched the TED Talk that with the composer?
Yeah.
So Kevin sent us this TED Talk. We'll post it in the description. This composer talking about classical music and how everybody's a classical music fan. They just don't know it yet. But he describes, a 7-year-old kid learning to play piano, and it's like really deliberate and like forceful. And then when you're 8, it's kind of every other note is really impulsed and forceful. And then as you age, the impulses like slow down. There's some flow, and then there's some more flow. And then eventually you get to this place where you're just flow. There's no force. There's no, and when you start training, when you start working out for the first 10 years, 20 years, I'm still working on this. There's points in the training where you're just trying to force it. You're impulsed in like the pushing. If you watch masters in training, you watch like Kolkov, like workout, like it really, like any physical athlete that's a master, an Olympic athlete running the 100, there's nothing like forced about it. They like fall into the precise flow of what they're doing, and it looks like there's no flex or like almost effort to it. They're doing what their nervous system is aligned to do in that moment. And when the more I train, the more I'm trying to be there. And that's not necessarily the highest objective performance, maybe not the fastest speed or the heaviest weight, but there's a feeling that comes with it where you're performing unconsciously. You're just doing it, and you're doing it well, and you can feel it, and you're sort of like, wow, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah. The greatest example I've ever saw of that was actually not in the gym. My wife and I, while he was still alive but had been playing for 50 years, we went to see Van Halen, and Eddie Van Halen did like a solo for like 10 minutes on the stage, and just watching him, I was like, oh, he's not doing anything. It's just happening. Like, and here's a guy who's like played every day for 50 years and was amazing talent, but you just watch him and it's like, oh, there's so much sound coming out and it doesn't look like he's doing anything. It's like almost hard to rectify in your mind.
It is very hard.
Yeah, but that's what's happening. Like, it's just like, oh, it's just happening. Like, it's very strange, but it is. There's very few people who get there. But it was like it was interesting to witness, because it's just like, this is some sort of magic that you just do not see.
And it's a really hard thing, but I think it's a really important thing to set up in the beginning from people of like, this is, this may take 20 years for you to get to, but this is sort of the target. It's not to win the Olympic gold medal. Like, it's not to squat 600 pounds. The target is to express yourself physically to your potential. And the way that you'll do that is actually by like practice, consistency, and ultimately letting go.
And to throw another cliche in, I think the learning to enjoy the process piece is the only way.
You must,
I'm like,
because you'll never get
can't.
that.
Yeah.
You just won't
Yeah,
do
you'll
it.
stop.
If people think about like exercise as being torture for something you'll avoid at every cost, think it's wild when I tell them, I was like, I know I like daydream. I like daydream / before I go to sleep at night. If I have the last day of a program in mind, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get up the next morning and come and like,
That's amazing.
It is
Yeah.
like, there's some days I'm like, I used to like, this kind of feels like Christmas on frequent
Yeah.
times, but there is something then that you're showing up for that. And I think community is a huge piece of that. I think there's that personal discipline, the community discipline, the coaching. There's enough variables that it's contributing to this like magic of this is what I want to show up for.
Yeah. You get to visit yourself. You get to visit, because, you know, we were joking before about how you saw Shane in your work clothes, and Shane was like, hey, welcome to the fort. And you're like, I trained with you this morning.
Dripping sweat. That's the only way.
But we're so used to seeing people just in this environment, in this place. But there is some reality to it. When you're here, you're a different, this is the version of you where you are working on this. And like, it's special and it's unique. And when you walk through the doors, you're visiting like your potential. You're visiting like the person that lives and works in here. Have you seen that that show Severance on Apple?
One or two.
Is weird, but it's crazy. Like they in the show, they separate people's memories between their work life and their out of work life. So when they're out of work, they don't know what life is, what they do at work. When they're at work, they have no idea who they are outside of work. So they sort of sever their memories. And I mean, it's a good show. I like watch the rest of it.
I will.
That's
but
not
I think
what
it
we
would
do
be,
here. But there is an element of like, you can visit a different version of yourself inside the gym.
You do. And that version of Hannah I've created in the gym, which is still, it's like, yes, it's still you. It's a much like sweatier, just like gruntled version coming in the morning. But what happens there pays such dividends in every other area of my life. Like I've probably had the most stressful professional year I've ever had. And I know moments that the thaw has gotten me through, the mental thaw that I've gone through in work, that I was like, would I have been able to do this if I had not been seeing what I could do physically and pushing myself to limits physically? That it's like, oh, didn't think I could do this. And someone is telling me you're stronger than you think. And I'm in things in work. I was like, I don't think I can do this. And then there's been a lot of crossover between those two selves.
Because you've proven to yourself that you can do extraordinary things. And when life presents extraordinary challenges, you can at least look and say like, but I'm someone who does extraordinary things, at least in this element. So why not in this? You know, so you encourage yourself.
You get to prove to yourself that that's the case.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it's the great thing about the gym is it's a lab. It's a controlled environment where you can, push yourself and experience these things in a real safe environment, but like really push the limits. And it's just a proof to yourself that like, oh, if you could do it here, you could do it out there. I mean, it's the X factor that we always talk about. And some people like, when people talk to us initially, they're like, oh, I want abs or whatever. But ultimately, like, this is the real rewards of training.
Yes. You better believe the moments I've showed up and I'm working on a project, I was like, I don't know how we're going to be able to figure this out. Like, oh, I PR'd that day that I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah. If you can do that,
you can.
Yeah,
I was like,
do anything.
Maybe you can figure this out.
Yeah.
There are moments when I leave, I'll walk up the street up to my office, and it's like the amount of times I was like, I feel like $1 million. I feel so good leaving. I was like, whether it's a great workout, just like seeing someone who they've been away and they're coming back, we trained together. I was like, I literally could care less what end up looking like, but I feel so incredibly good from what happens in this place.
It's a special thing because only you could do that too. Like you were the one that was there that focused and pushed through, felt the feelings, did it anyway. Nobody did it for you. You know, that there's a deep, you know, we were talking about the dopamine system earlier. Like that's serotonin. Dopamine is drive, go get something. I want something, I'm going to go get it. And that process. Serotonin is like, I did it. I know I did it. I don't need anybody else to tell me that I did it. And you get to sit and feel that still satisfaction. And when you walk out, like I still get it every session. When I like let go of the ski handles and I know that I like persevered through quite frankly something that I didn't think that I could do before I started, like I can be still and satisfied and know that like I did that. Nobody can take it away from me.
I'm like getting excited. I'm already daydreaming again of the next.
Well, luckily we're open 7 days a week.
Perfect. Not all or nothing, but it's nice to be in something you're like, oh, I'm all in. I don't even have to be, but I'm like all in. There's
it's nice like to not have to like decide and think about it and just like be all in it.
Yeah.
It's a luxury.
Yeah. All right. We half broke our rules of not making this too much about the gym, but
I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking like our gym is who watches this.
True.
It's for them.
Yeah.
We can talk about the gym all we want. We should. At first we were kind of like, we don't want to talk about the gym too much. Nobody is watching this outside of the gym. If you are, cool.
Yeah. So
very cool.
So great.
Very happy that
right.
you're like
or one
taking
viewer
your time.
In Bangladesh or whatever is watching this.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you.
the stuff that people want to hear is stuff about the gym because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And hearing Hannah's story and her perspective and her experience, and things are going to resound with others, you know, when they hear her articulation of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. I'm getting fired up to back squat now.
Let's go work out.
All right.
Hannah, thanks for coming.
Thanks, you guys.
That was really fun. All right. Till next time, we're the Fort. We're not going to do the weird sign off anymore. We'll just see you in the next episode.
Adios.